much. Ms. Adams and I have worked together over many years when we were both in the North Carolina legislature, and I will have to say I very much disagree that this is only a hearing about women's reproductive rights. This hearing has come about because there's an agency in federal government that is not being held accountable properly in terms of how it spends money in many different ways. I am home every weekend, and I come in contact with hardworking citizens who do their jobs and they pay their taxes. They volunteer and they don't get paid for it. They're true volunteers. And I see those people struggling every day to make ends meet and work in their fire departments as volunteers, the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts. And they want their money spent well. They don't begrudge helping their fellow citizens. We're the most generous people in the world, but they want their money spent well. And this agency does not spend its money well in many cases. You mentioned, Ms. Spencer, that you'd had a $6 million reduction over 6 years. Well, you are just talking to the wrong folks, because our congressional offices over the past 8 years have had a 20% reduction in the money allowed to us to serve a lot of people, over 700,000 people. And all of us are struggling very hard to continue the level of service that we gave before our funds were cut. So I'm sorry, that argument doesn't go very far with this group. Your idea of a culture of accountability and mine and Dr. Rose and the folks on our side of the aisle are two very different things. You can say you have a culture of accountability, but I'm sorry to say you have not described that very well today, in my opinion. If people had worked for me who had broken the law, I'd have no tolerance for them whatsoever, zero tolerance. And many members of Congress have exhibited that. You talk a lot about intentions. We need to be talking about metrics and true accountability here. Maybe Dr. Rowe and I are a little old-fashioned in what we think, but we think you ought to be measuring real things. What kind of outcomes are you actually getting? What skills are the people in these programs truly getting? Do they get any certifications? You know, we demand that kind of accountability in certain areas, and then in other areas where our colleagues want to measure only intentions, we don't get that. Now, it is true that the law has been broken by people, by agencies and groups you have funded. The law is clear. The federal government is not going to support abortion services. So while this hearing was not about that particular issue, I don't think we can close it without making it very clear. You seem to have a lack of concern about the violation of the law. Your consideration of a no-cost extension is very troubling to me. We've said it before. I said it at the beginning of the hearing, and I'm going to say it again. This grant should be pulled immediately, and under no circumstances should it be extended. And I hope we will get back from you a report that will fulfill that, because when you allow the violation of law in whatever category that it is, then we start down a slippery slope in this country. We're governed by the rule of law, and we should all want to uphold that. There being no further business, the subcommittee stands adjourned.